this. Brad Hazzard, that imbecile of a health minister for New South Wales, he said it's a privilege for us to be free to walk around. A lot of this is unlawful. A Biosecurity Act under the health section, you cannot force somebody to wear a mask or clothing or control their movements unless they are under a control order. Now, to be under a control order, and this is a federal government legislation, and federal legislation trumps state legislation if it's in the same area. You can't be under a control order unless you as an individual, not as a group, you as an individual have been proven in a court of law to be sick.
Yeah.
And so to make a blanket statement that you all got to mask up because you might, it's unlawful. Because you have to prove a pandemic as well. That's another criteria. But you can't prove a pandemic because they haven't got the numbers.
Exactly.
So everything that Scotty for marketing is pushing and everything good for nothing Gladys and the rest of those imbecile state premiers is pushing, by and large, is likely to be absolutely unlawful.
While this was happening, there was a social media mobbing that was going on of a business we visited yesterday called Love Crepe. Now, Love Crepe is a company. Last night, we released an interview. At the time of filming this, you guys will see this interview by that point. Last night, we released an interview of Love Crepe, and we did an interview with them. They copped social media mobbing. What ended up happening at Love Crepe? They said that we're not obligated to wear masks over a hot plate, according to the government officials we've talked to.
Services New South Wales, he rang them up and said, look, I've got guys working over the hot plate.
Yeah.
Do they have to wear it?
Yeah.
Absolutely not, said Services New South Wales.
Exactly. And wasn't there something written down somewhere that concreted that you ended up pulling up in the interview?
No. That was quite separate. No,
so quite separate. But the point was that there was a lot of confusion on this, and this poor business owner, he was copying this massive Instagram social media mobbing, and on Facebook as well. People giving him terrible Google reviews, and
who had never ever been there,
never been there before, not from the area.
As I explained to Nick, a lot of this social media mobbing, this pile-on, is absolutely fabricated. It's not real. But what it does is, if you get a handful of people doing this, everybody else gets scared to stand up, and so it's social media terror. Yeah. Terror is politically motivated violence. And what they're trying to do is they're terrifying people from actually standing up for the bloke.
That's right. And it's the modern version of the French Revolution execution, chopping your head off. This is unpersoning, because this is where you put yourself out there on social media. If you can't have a social media account, and if you can't get a bank account, as we might see with Donald Trump, they're coming after him. They're completely unpersoning him.
And as he said, he's not anti-mask or pro-mask.
That's right. He's not at all.
His primary objective, believe it or not, is to look after his staff. That's his primary concern.
That's right. Yeah, that's a true leader.
And he's trying to help them out. And he wanted clarification from good for nothing Gladys, the baby killer.
Exactly.
And they're giving conflicting instructions. And I raised the point that there's a possibility that it's actually an unlawful direction. Gladys is saying you can't do this. Brad Hazzard, that imbecile of a health minister for New South Wales, he said it's a privilege for us to be free to walk around. A lot of this is unlawful. A Biosecurity Act under the health section, you cannot force somebody to wear a mask or clothing or control their movements unless they are under a control order. Now, to be under a control order, and this is a federal government legislation, and federal legislation trumps state legislation if it's in the same area. You can't be under a control order unless you as an individual, not as a group, you as an individual have been proven in a court of law to be sick. Yeah. And so to make a blanket statement that you all got to mask up because you might, it's unlawful, because you have to prove a pandemic as well. That's another criteria. But you can't prove a pandemic because they haven't got the numbers. Exactly. So everything that Scotty for marketing is pushing, and everything good for nothing Gladys and the rest of those imbecile state premiers is pushing, by and large, is likely to be absolutely unlawful. Now, folks, go to Advocate Me, and there's a lawyer down there, Serene, and she's doing a brilliant job. Check it out for yourselves. Don't believe me, but once again, if you give your kids the vaccine, remember the car travelling 100 kilometres an hour and you're crossing the road, you can't see it, we can. Yeah. Please go to Advocate Me, see what Serene in Melbourne is saying about it. She's an absolute champion. She's absolutely heroic.
Yeah. Now, why am I bringing up this business? Well, we weren't meant to be covering this. Channel 7 and Channel 9 were trying to get a hold of Nick and Love Crepe, which is the business, and he wouldn't talk to them. He asked, through our mutual friend Romeo Georges, he asked Romeo, he said, can you get a hold of Riccardo and Romeo and Joel? I don't trust Channel 9. I don't trust Channel 7. I only want to speak to them to cover this because I can't get the word out, and I don't trust the media to film for 2 hours and then only take 2 seconds out of his statements. Because anyone that's watched the report, and you guys have seen it last night, they made it look like the police were knocking on his window. They were coming after him, but he was nowhere to be found. He's an anti-masker. How does that tie in with Lockie, that we just watched a video walking through Bondi Junction? Because Lachlan is a fan of the videos. That's why. And they put that in the report on Channel 7 and Channel 9. And so they're trying to get a hold of Nick, but they couldn't get a hold of the business owner. And because of that, they went to Lockie for a comment. What did Lockie do? He ended up filming, without them knowing, one of the Channel 9 news reporters, and he went back and forth with them. And you guys can see the photo of Lockie having a conversation there. That's on his Instagram. Check it out, Lockie Kavanagh. And I don't know. I'd never name. If you have the last name Kavanagh, I feel like they just come after you. I don't know what it is, but Lockie, you're doing some good work, mate. And as soon as Love Crepe opens up, and I hear that it might be on this Sunday. We're going to get out there and we're going to support you. And the poor guy, he's going to have so much business, he's not going to know what to do. He's going to have to maybe even expand the place because he has plans for that. And you guys can see the video of that right now, the new place he wants to sort of build. But he's got dreams. He's got employers to keep employed and employees. And he's just a business owner that pays his taxes, wants clarification from the government. You know,
it's not too much to ask, is it? It's not too much to ask. So if it is open on Sunday, check it out. Love Crepe in Drummoyne. Go buy a crepe because if it's open on Sunday, Joel and I will be there.
Absolutely.
Come and say hello.
It'd be a great opportunity to meet Riccardo, guys. Trust me. He's got 1,000 emails, 7,000 unread social media messages, hundreds of calls.
If you're trying to get through to me and I haven't responded, I'm not rude, please. It's just extremely time consuming.
It is.
Getting through them. And look, be persistent because I think I got 3 calls in the matter of about 15 minutes. I was doing the shopping at Coles.
Oh, okay.
And the phone just kept ringing and I took them. I said, oh, thank you. You answered. I said, mate, I'm sorry, please. But be persistent. Do your best. Just be patient as well.
Even I can't get a hold of you sometimes, and that's okay because I know you guys. You're running a party, starting from scratch. You basically do everything at home, including the cooking, guys. Like he goes hard. I've had his pasta before. It's awesome. With his wife there who has MS, and then he's got his kids who are being homeschooled as well. Like he's a busy guy, but when he takes your call, he's actually on it for like an hour or so. Like he'll actually give you the attention, but difficult thing to balance when you've got half of Australia trying to get a hold of you.
But love Crepe.
No, we love Crepe. Absolutely.
Love Crepe.
Get to Crepe. If you want to meet him, get to Crepe. Trust me, that's the place.
Lions Road, Drummoyne, I think.
That's it, Drummoyne. So that's been released, and that was really awesome. I did want to touch on just a few other concepts before we call it a wrap for today. I'm conscious of time and these cameras, which I can't wait to get rid of, which are going to give out. But I just want to quickly say part of the fallout, because I love annoying our audience every now and then. Here's the congratulations from Hillary Clinton. She said, congratulations to the new senators from Georgia and to everyone who organized and voted to get them there. It's a new day, Hillary Clinton. Just to rub salt in the wound, there's a photo of her. Because of this...
I thought she was dead.
I thought she was too. She disappeared, didn't she? But now she's back.
Okay.
She's like, oh, maybe I actually did win the last presidential election. Poor lady. Right. But I also wanted to highlight Vernon Jones, who was a former Democrat. He said moments ago, I announced that I am officially joining the Republican Party. Now more than ever, the Republican Party is in desperate need of leaders that know how to fight. I know how to fight. And this is a guy that's a big proponent of Brexit and black people leaving the Democrat Party. I fully support this. I think that in America, they can reform the Republican Party. People just need to get involved over there. It's a different system, I think. They don't need to start a third party because it's not a parliamentary democracy. And ours is for now. For now. But those were sort of the events that concluded the weekend over there. So John Anderson has a conversation series called Conversations with John Anderson. It's an excellent channel. I've been talking with John for over 2 years now about the channel, and I've supported them where I could, whether that's with big tech censorship. I work with this team a lot to help them get around it a lot, and it's been incredibly pleasurable to do that because they're doing some really good work and touching on topics which they can, and they're making it very mainstream. One of the topics they talk on is the challenge we've got with China, how we need to really make sure our military is up for the fight if world wars were to come around again. And he often reiterates the point, John Anderson, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, reiterates the point that if you want to prepare for war, if you prepare for war, then you'll be preventing it, basically. If you don't want war, prepare for it. If you want war, don't prepare for it. It's as simple as that. John Anderson had a very interesting conversation between Rear Admiral retired Andrew Robertson, and this conversation was my go-to conversation for understanding where things were with the Australian military. Unfortunately, this interview only has 3,500 views, and this was when John Anderson's series was relatively early. I reposted a clip of that interview, and it got 56,000 views, which is excellent. That's what we want to see, and I'll be doing that more. Unfortunately, Andrew Robertson actually passed away mid in 2020, and I had no idea in July. Andrew was a very solid soldier who was in the Navy, and he was around when the Battle of the Coral Sea was happening as well, which is a very, very significant battle that happened in the Second World War against the Japs. And it was a very pivotal moment that strengthened ties away from the UK, but closer with America. It was very pivotal. Things go so dire at that point in time. Australia was they had a backup plan to, they drew a line across Australia. They were prepared to give the Japs the northern half of Australia, including all of Queensland, Northern Territory, half of Western Australia. They were going to give it all up just if the Japs landed.
If they'd lost the Battle of Coral Sea, then that would have given a seaborne route to Moresby.
Yeah.
From which they could then launch operations against the Australian mainland.
Yeah. Because
the Americans won the Battle of Coral Sea, the Japanese were forced to go over the Kokoda Track, and that's a separate story.
Absolutely, and it's an amazing story, and the fact that the wealth of knowledge that Andrew Robertson had, I couldn't wait to meet him. I'd seen his interview with John Anderson in early 2019, and I always knew I wanted to meet him, so it's a shame. The reason why it went under my radar was because Black Lives Matter protests were happening, and I had no idea. So I gave my condolences to John and his family, yeah.
Okay, I just popped into my head, Battle of the Coral Sea. It is such a significant, pivotal moment in Australian military history, and yet there isn't a proper memorial to it. There's a small rock, I guess, is the best way to describe it, with a plaque on it, which is maintained by some loyal enthusiasts. And I was actually, this is a bit of a sour story, but let you know how this works. I was contacted by